Okay, so let me see.
Like the cap was open.
It was
I can see why I put it on like that. Not like the wood walls, but like it came out, yeah. It was weird. I left it like that. It looked weird. I've never seen them before. Not in my car. So yeah, it looked weird. We were not in your car.
Do we have a group yet or not?
Not in my car.
Especially in that
groups
or not?
thing right there.
She's still here.
So I think we do.
Behind your Cruz, de la Cruz,
I
don't want to sit near you now.
That was just for a moment.
No, you abandoned me.
Ray, he was using the big. Mera. I am here, he was here.
They were this big.
That's too big.
Yeah. So
Murray,
yeah. So
I was driving on the way back, so my whole thing, like,
at Universal Studios.
Okay, so. Okay, so this is a quite an important challenge. Now, to make your life easy, the exam for this unit for kidney and liquid balance and all that stuff is gonna be a take-home exam. It's gonna be a to-go exam. You see? You know that I'm not such a horrible person as you all have me as on a rate my professor that no. Well, that's right, the quiz. I thought you wanted me to start the class. Make up your mind.
sorry.
But you know that men cannot do that. That's against the law.
What?
Women do multitasking. We don't do multitasking. We're too dumb. I get home and I get it. I see I want your stuff done. The woman's freaking amazing. But me, freaking retarded. What are you doing? How are you doing?
I was going to tell John about
Please share your secret. What?
I don't want to do it.
Right?
Well, I'm just, the only reason I told you was because, like I cheated the system, yeah. So, like,
Lena.
there's, like,
De la Cruz.
no, you're saying one way. So, it's the day that like that night, yeah. At least you know.
How you feel?
You can be stupid. Because there's no good time. It is the liver.
Cruz. Feldman here.
Yesterday.
Murray.
It was liver.
Of course it was a liver.
No.
Camacho. You guys didn't like my quiz.
No.
But what happened? You erase them and then you mark them wrong, right? I know! You have to go with the first instinct all the time. Don't go back and erase it, people. It happens to all of us. Then I took the CPR exam a couple of years ago and I did that. Erase the right one and mark the wrong one.
I did.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. So that we don't. My wife wanted to go with that.
Te la cambio, te la cambio.
No, man.
¿Por qué no?
Tiro.
Te la cambio. Me falta una de Dominicana. ¿Me puedo?
And you're right on time. Okay. So this chapter is very important because a lot of your patients are gonna die of kidney disease. There's no way around that. Now, why do people get kidney disease? Because of dehydration. Why do they get dehydrated? Diabetes, high blood pressure, autoimmune diseases. Everything is gonna mess up the kidney. So be prepared. If you get into the nursing business and you want to make some extra money, get the, how you call it, the dialysis, what is it, certification, whatever they call it, and you'll make more money. Now, the only thing is that it's a very sad business because they all die. Unless they find them a kid. Now, make sure you watch that movie. There's a movie, I love this movie. Repo Man. You have to watch Repo Man. Beautiful, very romantic movie. Huh? You never watched Repo Man?
Yes.
It's a futuristic movie about this future where they don't do transplants anymore.
Is that the one with Paris
No?
It's like a weird one on Netflix.
No. This is an old movie from I think the 90s or the 2000s about with this guy with Jude Law that and Forrest Whitaker. They work. This is in the future, right? And they don't do transplants anymore. They have this company that the company makes organs. So you need a kidney here. $500,000. You need a heart. $900,000. We'll finance it, but the interest rate is super high. It's like 29%, something ridiculous like that. And you cannot pay. We'll give you 3 months grace period. But after those 3 months, we'll send somebody to repo the organ, and they just let you die.
Oh my god.
Very fucked up movie. It's funny as hell. Very. Okay, so the good news is that the anatomy of this chapter is the most retarded anatomy in the whole planet because it's only one organ and 3 tubes and 1 bag. So, I mean, if you get that wrong, something very serious with you. We have some models where I'm going to ask you the parts of the kidney, like for example the cortex, the medulla, the pyramid, you know, that kind of stuff. And yeah, we're going to talk about the thing later. We're going to focus today is on physiology. So, pretty much the business of the kidney is maintaining homeostasis, and more homeostasis. Now, the anatomy, again, retarded. 2 kidneys, 1 on the right, 1 on the left. Why is the right kidney lower than the left one? Who's pushing it down?
The liver.
The liver. Thank you, Jesus. They've been paying attention. Okay, can I see it here, man? Okay, right. Then you have a couple of tubes coming out of the kidneys, and those are the correct me if I don't know how to pronounce this. Ureters. Those things. Yeah, they're 2 little tubes made out of muscle. Oh, I forgot to ask the morning class this morning. What kind of epithelium you find on the ureters and the bladder? On the inside? No. The one that goes woo and then woo.
Oh, transitional.
You see?
Transitional what?
Transition epithelium. Now, so you have the 2 little tubes, the ureters, and they go down and they end up in your bladder. And then the bladder is a bag made out of smooth muscle, and again with the transitional epithelium, and then you end up with the urethra. Everything is the same for both guys and gals except for the urethra. You ladies have a tiny urethra, we have, depending on how big your boyfriend is, big urethra, bigger urethra, humongous urethra, the magnum urethra, you know. It all depends. Now, what do we do with them kidneys? Why do we die? Because they regulate, number 1, they regulate everything. And number 2, they get rid of the junk. So the number 1 function is getting rid of the junk. And why do people die of end-stage renal disease? Because the junk builds up and starts frying the other organs. Example, this is, I mean, the first time I heard this, I was in medical school, I was like, what? This guy shows up the emergency room with the hiccups, non-stop.
Those are the worst.
He did the water, he did the bag, he did everything. Nothing. You know what was wrong with the guy? He had kidney disease. And what happened was that the buildup of the waste product, it started like messing up with his phrenic nerve, which is the muscle that contracts that controls the diaphragm. So since he was irritating the diaphragm, the phrenic nerve, he was doing the crazy contractions. Yeah. And it's gonna mess up your brain, it's gonna mess up your liver, it's gonna mess up pretty much every organ in your body. And that's why those patients die. Plus the edema, and they go into cardiac arrest because of the edema, and they go bye-bye. Super nasty situation. Now, number one, they regulate the composition of ions in your blood. The sodium, your potassium, your chloride, your calcium, all of that stuff is regulated by the kidney. Remember, when you go to your doctor and do your CMP, make sure that you look at the normal values of sodium, potassium, and chloride and all that. And you see that there are windows of normality. And then, who keeps that window? The kidney. So this is all accomplished by the kidney. Oh, we have hypernatremia. What the hell is that? Huh? No, natremia.
Oh, what you
Natremia. Look at the na right there. Natremia, sodium. And then somebody has hypokalemia. Hi, mommy. Now, the other thing we do is the regulation of the pH. Remember, the pH is one of the most important homeostatic parameters in your life. And it's a mini narrow window that you can play with. And this is all regulated by your kidney. What is the other organ system that deals with this? That we talked about already? Huh? The who? No. When your pH is low, you start. And when it's high,
The lungs, respiratory system?
the lungs, the respiratory system. So we always gonna talk about respiratory acidosis versus metabolic acidosis. Respiratory alkalosis versus metabolic alkalosis. Now, of course, you're gonna regulate both the blood pressure and the blood volume. They pretty much the same thing because the blood pressure is an indication of your hydration of your body. They regulate the amount of water you have. And that's why, if you're one of those weird people that we have here, an overpopulation of weirdos here in the United States that they don't drink water, they drink soda, you don't pee enough. Oh, I don't like to drink water because then I have to go to the bathroom a lot. Freaking dumbass, you have to go to the bathroom for a reason, you know? So, it is important to drink a lot of water. And the more water you drink, of course, you're always going to have an excess, but it's going to make everything work better. And the business, we're going to see that the business of regulating the water is, what is the water going to follow? The sodium. So, you put the sodium here, guess who's coming? The water. You put the sodium here, and here comes the water. What else? And that's this business of blood ionic composition is the osmolarity. We have a couple of businesses taking care of osmolarity in your body. Remember when we talked about the endocrine system, what hormone was it that you produce in the hypothalamus that goes down to the posterior pituitary? The one? The antidiuretic. When you produce a lot of antidiuretic hormone, why would your hypothalamus produce a lot of antidiuretic hormone? Because your hypothalamus has osmoreceptors that they sense that this is weird. It's too salty. Meaning, if you have too much salt in your blood, what happens? You're dehydrated. Remember, there must be a balance. Water, electrolytes. If you get a nasty case of diarrhea, a nasty case of being stabbed or shot or whatever, imagine that. The water level is gonna go down, but the sodium is gonna stay the same at first. So what is gonna be the response of the body? Oh, this guy is dehydrated. So they produce the antidiuretic hormone, and the antidiuretic hormone is gonna go to the kidney and then gonna make the kidney don't feed the water out. Now, what is the response of the kidney itself when it's dehydrated? To produce what? If you don't know this, I'm gonna have a heart attack right now. So get ready. Yes. Thank you. Wow, gorgeous. The rain. What?
I just want to watch it.
Why? I have to see my daughter graduate college and the master's degree and the PhD and all that stuff, and hopefully have a grandkid.
What?
What?
With the Puerto Rican guy or?
Listen, I don't care if she has it with a mailman. But I told her, you know what I told her the other day? I had a talk with my daughter the other day. And I told her, I know that you, one of these days, you're going to end up having sex with this kid. And I don't care because that's your problem. But make sure you protect yourself because we don't know where this kid's been.
Mm-hmm.
Yes or yes?
Yes or yes?
And make sure you go and you tell me, and I'll be more than happy to take you to the health department to get some birth control pills. I don't care. When are you gonna get pregnant? When I'm 30. Yes, you know, you learned your lesson very well. So I told her, if you get pregnant now, you're gonna throw everything you've been doing now that you're killing your butt at school down the freaking drain. So, caca. Now, so you're gonna have osmoreceptors also in the kidneys, in a part of the kidney called the juxtaglomerular apparatus. Don't worry, the spelling is coming in a little while. And that's where the renin is produced. And remember that the renin is gonna then activate the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system that is gonna make you retain even more water. We're gonna come back to this. Now, besides the renin, your kidney is gonna produce a couple of other hormones. We took this one to death, right? This is the vitamin D. Which one? 2 or 3? 2. And then what does it need to happen for it to become vitamin D3? The UV light, exactly. So if your grandmother, like your great grandmother, that she was having issues with her calcemia, just put her outside.
I know of it.
Yeah. Oh, it's too hot. Don't worry. Shut up, grandma. Now, and remember, this is all going on negative feedback. Everything is negative feedback. The only positive feedback we have is, yes, mommy, let's have some sex, or yes, mommy, let's have a baby. Now, the other business we have is that your kidneys are gonna sense hypoxemia, meaning low levels of oxygen in the blood. Now, what is the cell in charge of moving the oxygen around in your blood? The red blood cell. So what is that thing gonna sense? That Voltaire here decided to have her period, and she's one of those ladies that she has like a nasty ass period, like 10 days long, 20 pads, you know, that kind of stuff, super scary. So her kidneys are gonna go, ah, and they're gonna start producing erythropoietin. Where is the erythropoietin gonna go to do its effect? Where? The what? The bone marrow. Speak like a man. Now, so the erythropoietin, again, negative feedback mechanism. Once you get your levels up to speed, whole thing stops. And I think that I told you about my sister-in-law, that she has end-stage renal disease because of her diabetes, and she's getting injections of erythropoietin and he's not doing squat. She still has like the nastiest anemia. Yeah, poor thing. Now, I told you that this is the main function of the kidney. They put it all the way down here, but that's actually the main function of the kidney. The people die because of the accumulation of the waste products. You get rid of waste products. You get rid of excess junk like drugs, medication. When you get into the pharmacology business, you're gonna see that about 80% of the medication we take are excreted out of the body through the kidney. What happens if your kidney has end-stage renal disease? Your patient, is he going to be able to get rid of the medication? And the function of the kidney goes down with age. So let's say that you have a patient who's an old fart, 80 years old, and his kidney function is not as good as this guy here. What are you gonna do? You need to play with the dosage to make sure. Because if you're unable to get rid of the medication efficiently, what's gonna happen to the level of medication in plasma?
It's gonna go up.
Whoop! And you're gonna learn in pharmacology that we have a therapeutic range. Then you have right above the therapeutic range, you have the toxic, and then right above that you have lethal. Yeah, nice. Now, we also play a little bit with the glucose here in this business of the kidneys. However, under normal circumstances, are you gonna pee the glucose?
No.
No. Who pees the glucose out?
Diabetics.
Exactly. Remember, for the glucose business, there's a threshold of glycemia. Once you pass that threshold, that your kidney's like, okay, that's too much, I cannot handle it anymore, then you're gonna see your patient with glycosuria. So when I put those terms on the exam and the quizzes, they're like, what I say to them in class. Now.
So glycosuria is being the glucose.
No, view backwards. You glucose in the pee.
Yeah,
Don't feel bad, man. Don't worry.
No,
don't worry.
it's okay.
Listen, you know how they used to test diabetes like 300 years ago? They will have you pee on the ground. And then if the ants came and played with your urine, this is actually true. This is actually true. This is true. Do you know that? You know, diabetes actually means funnel. Because remember, what happens to a patient with diabetes? They drink a lot of water and they pee a lot. Now, I don't know what's wrong with this projector. You don't see the actual colors of the stupid thing.
It's blue.
I know, everything looks funny. Now, this is the right side. Look at the liver. This is the left side. I think that's the spleen, right? Yep. So, you got a right kidney, you have a left kidney. As you can see, this one is lower. That's why it looks smaller, because this guy is pushing down, right? And then you have a right kidney. You have the abdominal aorta.
Why it says that is a left kidney?
Where?
It says left kidney when
Where?
it says right.
Left kidney. Yeah, this one is the left kidney. This is the right. That's what I said. Look at the liver. Look at the spleen. Remember, when you're looking at CT scans,
Yeah.
remember that it's like looking at the patient
Yeah, with
from the
yeah, it's like the feet is facing you now. The feet.
man.
because last
The guys
no,
like
last one it was the opposite. It was looking this way.
yeah, but all the time you look at a CT scan. This is always going to be the right side of the image. This is always going to be the left side of the image. And you're looking at the patient as if your patient was laying down with the head over there and the feet here.
Yeah.
Unless, like for example, they do a lot of X-ray films that they put a letter on one side, an R or an L, for orientation. So, the kidney, very straightforward. You have kidney, you have vein, a renal vein, and you're gonna have a renal artery.
What? That's a big.
What else? The right kidney again at a lower level. Very cute. Now, the kidney is always described as something that looks like a little bean. As you can see, it looks like a little bean. That's the renal artery in red, the renal vein in blue, and the ureter. Now, just like on the lung, you have an organ that has an area where you're going to have traffic going in and out of the organ, and that's what we call the hilum. That's always on the exam, the hilum. I don't know why I like to ask that stuff, but make sure you see it. So I asked you for either the hilum of the kidney or the hilum of the lung, either one of those. Now, what's going on through the hilum? the artery, the vein, the ureter, the nerves and lymphatics. Now, you also have connective tissue there, the renal fascia, an adipose capsule. Look at the adipose tissue here. You see, look at what is that adipose tissue doing around the kidney? Making it fat?
Lubrication and separation?
Protection. Precaution. And that is the problem with the spleen. The spleen is one of the number one organs that you lose whenever you go in a car accident and because the spleen is gonna do this. You see, the spleen is all the way in the back of the abdominal cavity, and since it doesn't have anything holding it in the front, it's gonna go, oh, brap! He's actually super funny. Damn, he's a mess, man. If you survive that, you're a wizard. They have to take you to the hospital because this is the thing. You can bleed to death if you lose the spleen. Right. Because pretty much the abdominal cavity is the largest cavity you have. Now imagine all that's pretty much, you can put like 3/4 of your cardiac output in there. So that right there you can bleed to death if they don't get that on time. Now, and then you have the capsule. The capsule is, where's the thing? This is the capsule right there. That's a good graphic right there. That's always on the practical, that graphic. I'm most likely gonna give you a quiz on this stuff. Let me see when. I don't know. I have to give you 2 quizzes. One for physiology and one for labeling. The labeling, I'm gonna do GI tract and kidney. We cool? Okay, so you have an idea of the fundus and all that stuff plus the parts of the kidney.
The fundus.
Of the stomach. And then I'm also gonna give you a quiz on multiple choice on physiology, and then the take-home exam for you to do it on your own.
Multiple choice is gonna be just on the GI tract and this too?
No. Multiple choice is gonna be, we did the GI tract already on multiple choice.
Yeah,
We're done with the GI tract. Tuesday we're having our exam on the GI tract, and everybody's happy.
Just the GI tract or the nutrition that you
The nutrition thing. It's always 2 chapters. Yeah, Tuesday we have the
And then Thursday the papers due.
yeah, paper is due.
And then probably the quiz.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I'm on the side.
So the quiz on Tuesday is just digestion.
The exam on Tuesday. His digestion and his GI tract and metabolism.
Since we're fast, why can't we move the test since we have the paper due on Thursday?
Move it where?
Like move it to the next
To Sunday?
Next Tuesday.
We'll do it Sunday.
No, the next
We'll have a barbecue. We'll do it Sunday. How's that? Now, the inside of the kidney is you have these layers. You have a capsule, which is a very thick layer of connective tissue that is protecting the outside of the kidney. Then you have, just like the adrenal gland, you have a cortex. And just like the adrenal gland, you're gonna have a medulla. Now, the medulla is made out of these units. You see that they look like little triangles, kind of like a triangle thing, and that's what we call the pyramid. Now, since this is in the business of making urine, you're gonna have that all these pyramids and all these businesses, they have millions and millions of little tubes, and they all gonna drain into bigger tubes, into bigger tubes, into bigger tubes, until they throw the urine into these humongous tubes, and they all gonna go into these pelvis and then into the ureter. Yeah. So you have so this is the, how you call it, the pyramid. Then you have the minor calyx, the major calyx, the pelvis, and then the ureters. We cool with that? So any of that stuff can be on the practical. So you know. Okay? Now you know. On we go. Now, this is the thing. Here comes the messed up thing about your body. Right now, my fellow Americans, we all are in parasympathetic state. Right? So, during parasympathetic activity, your kidney is going to receive 20 to 25% of the cardiac output. That's a lot of blood. That's about what? 2 point, what is it like? I don't know. A bunch of blood. 1.5, 1 point something. All the blood in the world. Now, what happens? If you are dehydrated because you're sweating too much, because you got shot, because you got diarrhea, whatever, and you're going into hypovolemia and the hypovolemic shock, what is your body gonna do? Your body's gonna start sacrificing organs. The first one to go is the skin, so you're gonna get all pale. And then, you don't need no kidneys, what is that good for? Bah! And we kill the kidneys. Now, what's gonna happen? It's retarded because you're trying to save the brain and the heart. But guess what? You don't go nowhere without a kidney. So, a lot of these patients, they actually die of kidney failure. You know? I'm telling you, we got screwed big time by the evolution. Now, the renal nerve supply. We have a nerve that is carrying sympathetic activity, and also you have some parasympathetic activity there. Duh. Now, remember that your kidney is going to go to work 24/7 under parasympathetic activity, and it's going to stop working when you are in sympathetic activity. So we go running outside around the school a couple of times. Imagine you and me going like, they might be like, ah! Now, that kidney is going to stop working because remember that we are in the business of redirecting the blood to the muscles, so the running. Now, and this autonomic nervous system is regulate blood flow through the kidneys. So whenever you're exercising, you're running, you send just tiny little bit of blood to the. I gave you that chart that compares sympathetic versus parasympathetic activity. Now, this is a cute graphic here that shows you the path of the blood through the kidney. I'm not gonna ask you that on the exam because it's like overkill. The only thing I need you to remember out of this whole thing is afferent and efferent, because we're gonna keep going back to these two over and over and over and over and over and more over, etc. So please keep that in mind. Now, why do we have to be coming back into the afferent and the efferent arterioles? Because of these guys here. Now, the nephron. You remember when we talked about the liver, that the liver had a cell called the hepatocyte, and the brain has a cell called the neuron, and you see everybody has its own type of cell. This guy doesn't have a cell. This guy has a working unit. And the working unit is a bunch of tubes surrounded by blood vessels. And this bunch of tubes surrounded by blood vessels is what we call the nephron. So, if somebody under normal circumstances, somebody your age, healthy, good-looking human being, is gonna have millions and millions of these little nephrons. Because remember, the more the merrier. You make the system more efficient, right? As we age, we start losing nephrons, and the efficiency of the system drops. Not good for business. So, the nephron is made out of these parts in general. You see that graphic is really bad because it's too small. So first you start from distal, from proximal here on the little bulb to distal here on the tube. So you're gonna have this area called the capsule. Bowman's capsule, the glomerular capsule, however you want to call it. And you have the part inside called the glomerulus. Now here is where the afferent going into the capsule and efferent going out of the capsule come into play. And these guys are important because this is how you regulate volume going into the nephron. We're going to come back to that in a little while. So this is the renal capsule. From the renal capsule, in the renal capsule, you're not going to produce urine. you produce the first step in the production of urine that we call the filtrate. Now, the filtrate is going to leave the capsule and it's going to go into the proximal convoluted tubule. Then you're going to leave the proximal convoluted tubule and you're going to go down and then up through the loop of Henle. Henle. The loop of Henle. And the loop of Henle is in the business of making your urine very, very, very concentrated if you're dehydrated, or very, very, very diluted if you're hyperhydrated. So that's the loop of Henle. Then the loop of Henle is going to have a descending limb and an ascending limb. This whole thing is on the practical. I'm just letting you know. So you don't be like, mommy. Now, once you go through the ascending limb, you're going to run into the distal convoluted tubule. And then you're going to go through here into the collecting duct. And you're going to have that a bunch of nephrons drain into a collecting duct, and all the collecting ducts are going to drain into bigger ducts, and then everybody's going to end up in the minor calyx, and then the major calyx, the pelvis, and out the ureter into the bladder. So that's the pathway. Now, first you start with the capsule, the corpuscle, that has two parts. You have the glomerulus, which is the mass of capillaries that is fed by afferent arterioles and draining to the efferent. Remember, afferent goes in, efferent goes out. So the afferent comes into the glomerulus and does its business of filtering, and then whatever is left inside the blood goes out through the efferent. Then you're going to have the Bowman's capsule that has visceral layer of podocytes which wraps around the capillaries. So you go in with the arterial, and then you're going to have a bunch of capillaries. Single layer of squamous cells. Now, the single layer of squamous cells, to make the filtering a little bit more selective, so you don't filter everything out of your blood capillaries, you have what we call the podocytes. So, you see those things, those yellow things surrounding the blood vessel? Those are the podocytes. Look at the nucleus of the, I think that they have a, there you go. Look at the nucleus of the podocyte, and the podocyte is going to have these little extensions called the pedicels, and between the pedicels you're going to have these filtration slits that they provide a lot of selectivity to the business of filtering. As you can see, this is just a capillary and it has a single layer of endothelium, and this is going to be fenestrated. Remember, what was the name of the, how you say window in French? Fenêtre. Oui. So that's why we call it fenestrated, because it has the little windows. Now, going back to this guy, look at the afferent arteriole here. It goes into the capsule. Then you have the podocytes in the business of doing the filtering. You create the, what was the name of the thing that you create here? The filtrate, that is the first part of the urine. And then you send the filtrate into the proximal convoluted tubule. Once you're finished with the filtering business here at this initial phase, you're going to send the blood out through the efferent arteriole. Now, this guy is always on the exam because I will have to mess with your head. This is what we call the juxtaglomerular apparatus, and this is where you produce your renin. More about that in a little while. And that's where those osmoreceptors are that you produce your renin when there's an excess of sodium. And the glomerular endothelial cells have large pores and fenestrations, and they're leaky. Basal lamina lies between endothelium and podocytes. Podocytes are whatever. And look at, that's a cute picture. You see, this is real. This is an electron microscope. Really, really cool. Now, you have two types of nephrons in your kidneys. You have the cortical nephrons, and they're called cortical because most of the nephron is on the cortex. and just a little bit of the loop is going to go into the medulla. And then you have the juxtamedullary nephron that again, most of it is still on the cortex, but it's in the lower part of the cortex, on the deepest part of the cortex. And you have a way longer loop, and the loop is going to go deeper into the pyramids, into the cortex. Now, most of the kidney is made up to 80 to 85% of cortical nephrons, and they have a short loop of Henle, and they create urine with osmolarity similar to the blood. And now, what is the other business about this? Remember that you have the first thing you make is a filtrate. Well, that's not the end of it. If you look at the nephron, you're gonna see that you have the Bowman's capsule here, and then you're gonna have all the little tubes, the proximal tube, the loop of Henle, and then the distal tube, and the collecting duct. All of these tubes are surrounded by what? What is that red thing? Blood vessels, by capillaries. So you start the filtrate here, but the urine is gonna be made throughout the whole business of the nephron. And throughout all these connection of tubes, you're gonna have, what kind of cells do you have in those tubes? What kind of epithelium? No, transition is further down. Huh? No, it's not squamous. What's the next level after squamous? The cuboidal. You have simple cuboidal cells. And these cuboidal cells are in the business of exchanging. The substances are going to go both ways, depending on the need of your body. If you're dehydrated, you're going to retain a lot of sodium, and the sodium is going to retain water. If you're hyperhydrated, you're going to release sodium, and the sodium follows the water follows the sodium into the tubes to go and make itself urine with very, very, very diluted. So the exchange is always going to keep happening, and the idea is that you have a capillary. These are all capillaries, all these things. Look at the peritubular capillaries. And these peritubular capillaries, since they're capillaries, they have a single layer of squamous cells, simple squamous epithelium. And you have simple squamous epithelium. You have a layer of interstitium, a piece of interstitium, and then you have the cuboidal cells. So, and then you're going to have the tube where the urine is going to be made. What is the idea? The passage from the tube through the cell into the interstitium into the capillary, or backwards, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Really cute stuff. Now the renal, these juxtamedullary nephrons, the corpuscle is deep in the cortex, and they have a long loop, and they receive blood from the peritubular capillaries and the vasa recta. The ascending limb has a thick, thin region and enable the kidney to secrete very concentrated urine. Now, when do you secrete very concentrated urine? When you're what? Dehydrated. So, listen, you don't have to be super dehydrated. When you get up in the morning, what do you get? Yes, we know. Is it concentrated or diluted? Why is it concentrated? Because you haven't had anything to drink in 6, 7, 8 hours since you went to bed. As the day goes by, you start drinking water, and the urine starts to get diluted. Very cute. And that's the juxtamedullary nephron. Again, you have most of the tubes up here, and the deeper part of the cortex, and then you have a very long loop of Henle going deep into the medulla. The juxtaglomerular apparatus, you have the ascending loop in contact with the afferent arteriole at a place we call the macula densa. Now, what do we have here? we have osmoreceptors, and they regulate blood pressure. That's where, when your blood pressure drops, what is the kidney gonna secrete to save you from dehydration? Huh? The what?
Salt.
Say it. What did you say?
She said Renan.
That's it. Why do you always do that? You write the right answer on the exam and then you erase it. That's where you produce the renin, exactly. And then the renin is going to go activate the angiotensinogen and then turn it into angiotensin 1. ACE is going to turn it into angiotensin 2. And then the angiotensin 2 is going to come and mess with this stuff and make you even more dehydrated. And there goes your kidney function. Bye-bye. Now, this is a very, how you call it, a simplistic way to look at the whole thing. You start the filtrate here, and throughout between the peritubular capillaries and the tubes, you're gonna keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, depending on whether you're hydrated or dehydrated, whether you have too much sodium, too much potassium, whether your pH is high or low. All that stuff is regulated by these guys. Now, the filtration, glomerular filtration, then we have what we call the glomerular filtration rate. This is regulated by blood pressure, and if you have a lot of water in your life, you're gonna have a high filtration rate. If you have a low amount of water, low filtration rate. And this is opposed to capture and color water molecule mobile glomerular. Now the filtration rate and amount of filtrate formed in both kidneys at each minute, and the homeostasis requires kidney to maintain a relatively constant GFR. This is the beauty about this. You're gonna see that your kidney is gonna like play with this GFR to try to control your blood pressure. Try to keep it constant. Now, let me see if you guys been paying attention to all this bullshit I've been telling you for the past 3 months. You get the blood through here. Now, that's hydrostatic pressure. This is hydrostatic pressure. But then you see this thing going back into the capillaries, and this is osmotic pressure, colloid osmotic pressure. What is the other name for that?
Pressure gradient?
No. The pressure that is pulling the stuff back into the capillary. The what? Oncotic. Who's pulling the water back into the capillary? The albumin. Thank you, Krishna. Thank you. See if I'm gonna be praying to the gods. Exactly. Let's go with the Greek mythology. Thank you, Dionysus, or Zeus. Now, so this is oncotic pressure. Most of it is always going to be hydrostatic pressure. Look how high the hydrostatic pressure is compared to the other two guys. This is 55. Then you have 30 of oncotic pressure going back, and you have a little bit of hydrostatic pressure following, trying to go back in. So you're going to end up with a net filtration rate of pressure of 10 millimeters of mercury. That's fine. That's good. Because you don't want this either to go berserk. Now, why is the filtration rate higher in guys? Because you ladies what? No.
What'd you say?
Why is the GFR lower in females? Backwards. Who has more water in their body?
Man.
Good.
Yeah. I've been saying these things like 10 years. You remember 10 years ago when we met? How old were you 10 years ago? 11. I was in medical school 10 years ago. Having a freaking blast. Now, you have 70 to 80% of your weight is water. 60 to 70% of your weight is water. We're talking about under physiological conditions, not me, I'm not physiological. Why don't I have 70%, 70 to 80%? Because I'm what? What's wrong with me?
How do you post it?
You can say it. Obese. No, this is actually called obesity because my BMI is above 30. So yes, I'm obese, and I'm proud. Now, obesity is not physiological. So if you have obesity, obesity is gonna push the water out of the way. That's why I can get dehydrated faster than the boy. Now, why do women have less water than guys, even under physiological conditions? I'm sorry?
Higher body fat percentage.
Exactly. Because you need to have a little bit of fat here so you can look cute. You need to have a little fat here so you can look very cute. Not cute, to protect your boobs, against stuff, so you can feed your kids. They're not for porn, they're for feeding the kids. Not your boobs. Big misconception in society. And then, these societies so fucked up that you go to a restaurant, some woman's feeding their kids, and people get offended. Now that guy's gonna go home and start browsing the internet looking for porn. Now, I don't get it. I don't get it. What's wrong with these people? And these are Christians. I'd rather be an atheist, man. Now, this whole business is regulated by renal regulation, oral regulation, hormonal regulation. Look at this thing. If you have high blood pressure, this is really messed up because this is gonna happen both. The vasoconstriction of the afferent arteriole is gonna happen both when your blood pressure is high to protect the nephron from, and when the blood pressure is low because of the angiotensin II. And this is why the people with a long history of untreated high blood pressure are going to end up at the Vita Dialysis Center. I'm telling you, get a gig there, they pay good. Good business to be in the dialysis business. And then you have the feedback of Mera, I don't even know how to say that. Inhibits the release of nitric oxide. That's the auto regulation. Now, here, I don't understand why this guy only talks about sympathetic stimulation. Because remember that this happens both ways. You have sympathetic and parasympathetic business going on. The sympathetic is going to block the whole thing. So, you're exercising or you're bleeding yourself to death. Since you're under fight or flight, you're going to produce a lot of renin, you're going to produce a lot of angiotensin II, and this is going to be constricted. And since you're not going to cut down the amount of blood, you're going to cut down the GFR. And again, this is why whenever you're dehydrated, you can fry your kidneys. And more blood is available for other organs. Meaning, other organs mean the heart and the brain. Those are the other organs. Fuck everybody else. We just care about those two, But it's retarded because your patient then is going to die of kidney failure. Now, the angiotensin II constricts the afferent and the efferent arterioles, decreasing the GFR. So both of them, you're going to completely shut down the system. There goes your filtration rate, there goes your nephron, there goes your kidney. So, on the other hand, when you're hyperhydrated because you've been drinking a lot of water, like myself, I've been drinking a lot of water today, and I gotta pee now because we're all these talking about pee. Makes me want to go. Your heart, right above the atria, each atrium, is gonna have like a little chubby area called the auricles. The auricles. And these auricles, they produce, whenever the atria like expand too much because of hyperhydration, they get stimulated and they secrete this hormone called the atrial natriuretic peptide. Now, let's break down the word. Atrial for atrium, natrio for what? Sodium, uretic for, exactly, for urinating sodium, and that sodium is going to be followed by the water. So, the hypogenic and all that stuff, angiotensin. Okay. Tubular reabsorption and secretion. Much of the filter is reabsorbed, especially the water, because we're supposed to keep most of the water. The glucose, you're not supposed to be glucose, cacapupuche. You're not supposed to be protein, never, cacapupuche, no protein. And you're supposed to keep most of the ions. There's a table that is coming later on that shows you that we keep most of everything. Now, the secretion helps manage the pH and rid the body of toxins and foreign substances. Again, the main purpose of these pieces. Here's the table. See, I wasn't lying. So, as you can see, you're gonna keep most of the water. 180 liters go in, 78 liters go back into the circulation. This is per, what is it, per minute?
Per day.
Something per day, go figure. Per day, yeah, I know. Per day. So, you only pee approximately 1.5 to 2 liters of water per day. Now, of course, if you're like a crazy maniac like me, that I exercise, my 20 miles of bicycle every day and all that to look cute, and drink a lot of water like I do, instead of 2 liters of urine, you're gonna have a little bit more, maybe 3 or 4, because I pee every freaking, Plus, I take the diuretic for my blood pressure, which makes me pee even more. Of course I drink coffee. Yes, but I love it. Don't you love coffee?
No, I can't drink coffee.
You don't know what you're missing.
It's because my sis. It makes my sis worse.
You don't know what you're missing.
I know what I'm missing. I can't drink.
You're not
My sis.
You don't know what you're missing either.
Yes, to measure how much PM.
I'm sorry for you.
We're not allowed to say it.
Now, look at the proteins.
I'm telling you.
Only bitty of protein actually is excreted. Sodium, again, most of the sodium stays. Most of the chloride stays. The bicarbonate, very little bicarbonate is going to go out. The glucose, the glucose never goes out. When is the glucose going to go out? When you pass the threshold, and then. Now, why do these people with the glycosuria get dehydrated?
Because the sugar also goes.
The what?
I mean, the glucose goes with
Exactly.
it. The sugar.
Sugar is what I put in my coffee. You see? I have the brown sugar. I have some in my office. My coffee. Now, urea, you keep a good chunk of it, but you get rid of most of it. The urea is a waste product of breaking down DNA. And in some cases, the urea can build up. The same thing with the uric acid. The uric acid, you get rid of some of it. But you have some patients in which it builds up. And it gives them a nasty case of arthritis that goes after the big toe. What's the name of that arthritis? Gout. Exactly. And then the creatinine. The creatinine, you get rid of 1.6 grams, and you get rid of you don't reabsorb any creatinine, because creatinine is a nasty waste product of muscle metabolism. But you don't want that. So, I have a patient, Mr. Recio, and he goes in for his physical. I order the comprehensive metabolic panel. You're gonna have what they call the BUN, the creatinine, you have some parameters in there to test kidney function. If the creatinine level is high on that patient, and let's say that his protein level is low in blood, right there, that guy has kidney disease. You know? Very cute. Now, this is important. Remember I told you, you have the flat cells where the passage goes yesterday, the exchange of substances. And then you have the cuboidal cells where it happens fairly quick but not as quick. Now, the kidney, in order to make this business more efficient, not only are you going to send the ions and the water and all that stuff through the cell. No, that's not enough. We're going to send stuff between the cells. Really, really cute. So you have the paracellular, that's between the cells, and the transcellular through the cells. So, this is what I was telling you about. This is where the urine is going to be made. That's why they put it in yellow. Then you have your cuboidal cells here, single layer cuboidal cells. You have the interstitium right here, and you have the capillary. And you're going to have substances going through the cell, and you're going to have substances going between the cells. Again, to increase efficiency of the system. Now, how do you move this stuff? Some of them move through passive transport, but a good chunk of them are going to move through active transport, both primary and secondary. In the business of primary, remember, and what is active transport? When you need to use what? I got it. Yeah, you too. Let's go. Let's race it.